So I finished the first wall of my chore coat pattern. It's very much in its skeleton form right now. Like I just have a basic front bodice, back bodice, sleeves, and collar, but it's a good starting point for where I'm hoping to go with the pattern. I'm gonna put it on for you so that you can see where the fit is at, and then I'll talk you through how I'm planning to adjust it. I've already put on my muslin and created a video that I sent over to Victoria, who's the creator of the pattern making course that I'm taking right now. She reviewed the video and then sent me a video back of some adjustments that she thinks that I need to make. It's actually really cool to get this kind of feedback because I start by telling her the adjustments that I think need to be made, and then I get to compare them to her input, and obviously she's a professional pattern maker, so she has more of an eye for this than I do at this point. So yeah, I'm learning a lot from her and it's been awesome so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on that chore coat so we can talk about it. Okay, here we go. It is on. I'm super excited with how this is turning out. I know it's just a rough draft, but it feels really good. So here's what we got going on. Like I said before, it's just a basic skeleton. It doesn't have any of the extra style lines that I'm planning to add. Like I know we talked about, I'm gonna split this, I'm gonna add some pockets, I'm gonna do a center back seam, I wanna do a seam down the middle of the sleeve. There's like a lot of different little accents that's gonna totally enhance this and make it way better than the muslin looks right now. But I wanted to get that basic skeleton first, just to make sure we're going in the right direction before I start cutting up all these pattern pieces and making them even more complex. So let me talk about the things that I see right off the bat. Some things visually, like for example, this cuff is a lot smaller than I wanted it to be. So you can see that I drew on a line here. I want it just to be bigger for visual effect. Same goes for the button placket. This button placket is really skinny and I think it needs to be longer. Not only does it need to be longer for visual effect, but it also needs to be longer for the purposes of constructing the collar. The button placket and the collar basically meet up perfectly, which you would think is kind of good, but actually I think it might cause some fraying during construction. So instead, I think I'm gonna add width to the button placket. That'll help with the construction and the longevity of the garment itself, but it'll also help with that visual effect of just having a wider placket. Then in addition to that, I think that the hem of the garment down here, I want it to be the same width as the button placket, so I'll just make those match. And those were visual things that I saw right out the gate. Also, the collar that I drafted is significantly too short, which is why it's only on one side and not connected all the way around, because I wanted to see what it was going to look like, but I do need to update that pattern piece. So anyways, this is what I told Victoria. I sent that over to her in a video, and then she sent me feedback back on the things that she sees that are in addition to the things that I see. So this is what she said. The first thing that she noticed, which I think should have been super obvious to me, but for whatever reason was not obvious, is that this area here is far too high. If you see, like, this is where the crease of my neck is, and there's so much extra height here that does not need to be there and also shouldn't be there, because in theory there will be buttons all the way to the top, and then if you wanted to like button this up, it would choke you. So that's not what we want. Although this probably won't be buttoned up all the way to the top for me when I wear it, there will probably also be people who do want to button it to the top. So obviously that needs to change. Basically, I'm just gonna take a pencil and I'm gonna draw in right here. Actually, I'm gonna take a pencil and draw in right here right now. So let's see. I'm gonna look in the mirror over here, and this is like the beginning of my neck here. Okay, so I just drew in like a super faint line, and that's gonna help me so that I can measure out exactly how much farther it needs to come down for when I change it on Illustrator. So that needs to happen, and then obviously once that happens, it's going to make the length of the collar like opening bigger, so I need to change the length of the collar, which I needed to do in the first place anyways because the collar was too short. So I need to do that, and then another thing is that this collar, the difference is really big between this little flap and this little flap, so I'm going to shorten it. I'm not totally sure how much I want to shorten it by. I'll probably just like flip it under here and pin it just to get kind of an idea. Even just that probably looks a lot better. Yeah, so I'm gonna shorten the width of the collar. What else do we got going on? In terms of the length, I really like the length. I also really like the length of the sleeves. It might kind of look a little big when my arms are down, but when my arms are up, which, you know, we move our arms all day while we're wearing clothes, I really like when my arms are moving for the jacket sleeve to be all the way over my wrist still. If it's not all the way over my wrist and I don't have enough ease of movement and then it ends up like up here, then for me, it feels like the garment just doesn't fit properly. So that's a personal preference thing, and I'm gonna keep the length of the sleeves the same. One other thing that Victoria said that I should consider is basically this garment is really long, obviously. It covers your entire butt. So when you sit down, that could potentially be uncomfortable for some people because you're sitting on top of your garment. But in my mind, it's almost the same as like sitting on top of a dress. Like your dress falls to the floor, you sit on it, it's fine. You can adjust it if you need to for more comfort, but it feels pretty normal to me. I did some standing and sitting tests to see how it felt, and I wasn't uncomfortable by the length. But anyways, what Victoria had said was maybe I might consider adding a pleat. I'm not totally positive if she meant the kind of pleat that happens in the middle here for like a normal standard button-up shirt, or if she meant a slit from like this part here all the way down to the bottom, so that when you sit down it kind of opens and it allows for that ease of sitting. But yeah, I messaged her in the Discord to confirm what she meant, and I'm gonna think about it, but I don't think I'll add it. Yeah, it's just an addition that I don't know is super necessary, and also it's something that could be added if someone bought the pattern and they didn't really like the way that it feels when you sit. So those are kind of my thoughts on that. I would be interested actually in knowing what you guys think about that. Obviously, I'm making this pattern for you, and I'm gonna be making lots more patterns in the future, so it's always good to get input and see what other people like to sew, because yes, I am making patterns for me, but ultimately I'm making them for you as well. So want to make sure that I'm making things that you enjoy. But yeah, I think that's kind of it in terms of the adjustments that I need to make. So I'm gonna go ahead and write all the adjustments down. Last time I made adjustments, I wasn't super precise. Oh, there was one more thing. I do think that the sleeve could be a little bit more dropped, because this is supposed to be a really relaxed garment. Like obviously you can tell there's a lot of movement in the sleeves, there's length and width. It's not a fitted garment. It is very much a casual throw over and any day sort of outfit garment. So I think to like enhance that feel of comfort and ease of use, I'm probably going to drop the shoulder by maybe a few centimeters. Let's see. So the shoulder is here right now, and maybe it could be like here instead. So that's probably like, it's probably like 2 centimeters. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and measure that out, drop the shoulder, change the sleeve cap, and all the other things that we mentioned, like the button pocket, the height here, the width of the collar, all that sort of stuff. So yeah. What was I saying? I'm gonna go over to Illustrator and I'm gonna update all those things. Like I was saying before, when I had previously made adjustments, I wasn't super specific. Like I didn't write down, oh, I changed the sleeve cap by 2 centimeters and I changed the width of the collar by 1 centimeter or whatever. I want to be better this time about writing down exactly what I'm doing, just so that I personally have a log of adjustments that were made between patterns, and then also for Victoria, I can just give them to her and it'll be a lot easier for her to see if I made those adjustments correctly. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and make a list of all of the things that need to change, and then I'm gonna send them to Victoria in the Discord. While I wait for her to respond, I'm gonna be making those adjustments in Illustrator to the pattern, and then I'll send her the pattern for review before we print it again and probably sew up another muslin. I'm not totally positive exactly what the next steps will be after sending her the pattern that's been adjusted. I'm gonna wait for her thoughts, because she might say make another muslin, or she might say it's close enough that you could make a wearable muslin. Yeah, so anyways, I'm just gonna wait for her feedback and we're gonna go from there. Now let's hop into Illustrator. Okay, so here are the official adjustments that I'm making. I'm extending the button pocket so that the width is 5 centimeters. I'm decreasing the width of the collar to be 5 centimeters. I'm adjusting the collar length accordingly. I'm increasing the width of the hem to 5 centimeters. Wow, there's a lot of 5 centimeters in here. That's just by coincidence. I'm decreasing the height of the neckline by 5 centimeters. I'm increasing the width of the cuff to be a total of 7.5 centimeters. I'm going to drop the shoulder down by 2 more centimeters, and then I'm also going to adjust the sleeve cap accordingly. None of it's super major, although I do think that adjusting the sleeve cap will take a bit of time just because I'm not super practiced in it, but overall it should be fine. Victoria also already got back to me in the Discord. It only took her a few minutes to respond, and she said that all of the adjustments that I'm planning to make look great. So So I'm doing those now, and then once that's done, I'm gonna send it back to her. So Victoria and I just went back and forth a little bit in the Discord group chatting about my chore coat. I made all of those adjustments that we talked about in Illustrator. I had them sent over to her, and then we talked a little bit more about the sleeve and the sleeve cap. We decided that rather than doing a standard sleeve where the front and the back are a little bit different, we were actually going to do it mirrored. That way the sleeve can be cut on the fold, and it works this way because the front and the back were so similar that we just decided to make them the same. I personally love having a perfectly mirrored sleeve because it's just so much easier to work with. You don't have to worry too much about which side is the front and which side is the back because they're literally the exact same. The only consideration that you have to have is like which side is the correct side versus the wrong side of your fabric, but obviously you know that when you put them together. So anyways, I'm really excited about that. I have it all put on the tiling template so I can go ahead and print it out now, and Victoria gave me the okay. After officially making all those edits, I sent the most updated version of my Illustrator file over to Victoria, and she gave the a-okay to get it printed, so I'm gonna go ahead and print it out now. So when I chatted with Victoria in the Discord, she said that she thinks it's best if I make another muslin. The reason that is because I made quite a few changes to the original fit of the garment, especially the sleeve and the sleeve cap. So I'm gonna go ahead and tile this all together. And then once it's tiled together, I'm gonna cut it out in muslin and I'm gonna sew it up. It shouldn't really take too long. I did it pretty fast last time, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to sew it up fast again because obviously the faster it's done, the sooner I can send the feedback over to Victoria and then she can tell me whether or not it's time to make a wearable muslin. I have a feeling though that I got it right this time, so I'm pretty excited about that, but we will see. Yeah, I'm just gonna tile this together and then I'll get to sewing. Okay, the pattern pieces are all put together and it is now time to cut up the muslin. So I'm in the midst of sewing the back bodice and the front bodice together, and as I was pinning, I realized that things were not matching up the way that they were supposed to. It's not a huge offset, but I did not put any ease in the side seam. So I went back onto Illustrator and I looked at my files, and basically what happened was I totally jumped the gun and I didn't properly treat the seams because I was excited and just wanted to hop straight into the project. So lesson learned, I should do my due diligence. It's not that big of a deal. This is just a muslin, so that's exactly what this is for. I can super easily change that in Illustrator so that it does not happen again in the future. And yeah, that's that. I guess that's what happens when you go far too fast and are far too excited. Anyways, it's not a problem. I'm gonna keep moving on and go from there. Okay, it is the next day. I finished my toile last night and it went so well. I actually already put it on. I sent a video to Victoria and the feedback was amazing. She basically said it looks good to go and we're ready to basically take the pattern in Illustrator, and I'm going to change it around so I can add all those seam lines that I'm super excited about. And yeah, then I'll be able to print it out and make my first wearable, not muslin, wearable toile. I'm so excited. I'm going to put it on so you can see what it's looking like right now. There were maybe 1 or 2 things that I was going to change in Illustrator, but other than that, the pattern is pretty good and I can't wait. Okay, here we are. I'm so happy. It went super well. I like the length, I like the width of the placket. Everything is almost there. The only thing that I needed to change is up here. You can see that the collar goes into the placket by just a tiny bit. I need it to overlap more. So I'm gonna make the collar longer. And then other than that, I'm still thinking, sorry about my squeaky floor, if you can hear that. I'm still thinking about the sleeve length. So I think what happened is that from my last toile, when I made this seam longer so that I'd have more of a drop shoulder, I didn't account for that length when I created the sleeve. So this sleeve seems to be a bit longer than my last toile, and I think it's a tiny bit too long. Like when my hands are down, you can barely see the tips of my fingers. So I think it needs to come up by just a few centimeters. But like I said before, I do like to be able to move my arms and still have my wrist fully covered, but my wrist would still be fully covered if I took off like, I don't know, an inch or so. So yeah, I think I'm gonna change that by just a tiny bit so that they're not too long. And other than that, it's all good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a pencil and I'm gonna start drawing all over this thing so I can like see where I want the sleeves to come open in the middle and figure out how I want to change the bodice here, where I'm going to add the pockets, everything like that. So yeah, what I'm going to do right now is take a pencil and draw all over this thing so I can see where I want to add the new seam lines, and then I can measure those out and apply them to my Illustrator pattern and then get this printed out again so I can cut into my wearable toile. Okay, so I just did a quick calculation to see what 1/4 of the height of the bodice would be, because I want to make a seam line that goes all the way around at that point. I'm just going to take my ruler and draw a line all the way around so I can see what it looks like and if I like the proportions. All right, I drew on some seam lines and here's what we got going on. It might be really hard to see because I drew it in pencil, but I wanted to draw it in pencil just in case I decided that I wanted to change where the seam lines were. So I'm sorry if it's not that easy to see, but here's what we got. There is a line all the way around right here. See? A line right here. It's about a little bit more than 1/4 of the way up, and visually I like where that's lying. I also placed a pocket, and I placed it the same width away from the placket as how big the placket is, if that makes sense, just because I think that the proportions look good that way. I think I like the size of the pocket, but I'm not totally sure. I originally had it lower, but then I realized when you stick your hand into the sides of the pockets, you don't want them to be too low, otherwise it's just not going to be a comfortable sitting position for your hand. But I think that right here is a good position. Then I cuffed the sleeve under a little bit to see if I liked this length, and it looks good when my arm is down. It also looks good when my arm is moving. So I think that I'm going to change it by like this much, which I think is about like 1.5 inches. Then here I drew one seam line down the middle here so that I could get an idea of what it was going to look like. And I like that, so I will change that on Illustrator for sure. On the back side, I drew a line all the way down the center, and what I noticed is that obviously if there's a line that goes all the way around as well as a line that goes all the way down the center back, then it's gonna look like the back is split into 4 places, which was not the goal and not what I had really envisioned in my mind. So instead, I'm gonna have the back piece be 3 pieces. So it's gonna be the 2 side pieces and then the 1 long down the middle. So basically the center back seam won't go all the way down to the very bottom. It'll only go all the way down till like 9 inches from the bottom. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm liking the way that it looks, so I'm excited to translate it onto Illustrator and then get it all printed out. I don't think that this should take me too much time, so I'm gonna see how fast I can do this on Illustrator, and I will see you when I'm ready to start cutting fabric, because you have already watched me piece together so many patterns. So I just clipped the shoulder seams together and I kind of had a realization. First of all, the fun part about making your own patterns is that you kind of get to decide the entire construction. I mean, that's obvious, but for me, I'm kind of thinking through like, what's the best way to do this? What steps should I be taking? Should I do this thing before this thing? What's the most efficient way? All of that kind of thing. So when I was clipping this together, I was originally thinking that I was gonna serge the seams together and then I was gonna press all the seams to the back and then I was gonna top stitch all of them. But that's definitely gonna cause some bulk, so that's a consideration to have. And then in addition to that, I've already pressed open the back seam and top stitched it, and I really, really like the way that looks, and that had always been my vision for how the back was gonna be constructed. So I'm thinking that that might make the most sense to just press all of my seam allowances open rather than pressing them to the back and top stitching. I think that'll also make the top stitching look really consistent and beautiful throughout the entire garment. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It might be a little bit more effort in terms of how much I have to serge, but I'm not really that worried about it. It's also gonna cause less bulk on the inside of the garment, so I think it's gonna be more comfortable to wear. All of this is just toiling, and while this is hopefully gonna be a wearable toile, if I decide that I don't like something about it, it's no sweat off my back. It's gonna be totally okay. There will be more renditions of this. I'm hoping that I can basically go from this toile to a final product, but I don't know. We'll see once this toile's done. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and serge all these pieces separately, and then I'm gonna attach them with a straight stitch and then press them open. Here's a quick sewing tip for you. I really, really value beautiful seam lines, like where everything matches up. I know that these are details that other people are like never gonna notice on my garment, but it's just something that brings me a lot of satisfaction, and I know that you guys probably will feel the same way. So here's how I make beautiful seam lines. So there's this split seam here, which is gonna be in the middle of another seam. It would be very similar to the four-way cross that you have at the very crotch of a jean. So what I like to do is put a pin through the point that I want to intersect perfectly, and then I'll baste that piece in with a straight stitch. When I say baste, I don't mean to do a long straight stitch. Instead, I like to do a normal straight stitch, but I don't back stitch on either end. That way, when I open up the garment, it's not going to fall apart because the stitch is too wide, but it'll hold together and it'll be super easy to take the stitch out afterwards. And honestly, a lot of the time I don't even take the stitch out. I just stitch straight over it and it seems to work fine. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and baste this into place. If it doesn't work out the first go, which sometimes it doesn't, I'll take it right out and I'll try it again. It's pretty low effort to do this, even if you have to take it out and do it again. So I would highly recommend getting in the habit of doing this if you really care about beautiful seam lines like I do. Okay, so I just did a small little basting stitch here, and now when I open it up, they match up super nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of the seam. Hello, it is the next day. I had a very, very full day of sewing yesterday getting this chore coat done, and it's not quite done, but basically all of the major construction of it is all done. The only thing that I haven't done yet is added the pockets and put on the hardware. I'm thinking about doing snap buttons, but I'm not sure if the material is gonna be too thick for that, so I'm kind of toying with this idea still, but the chore coat's amazing. I'm so, so happy. Yeah, let me just try it on for you so you can see it. So here she is in all her beautiful glory. I'm so happy. I can't even explain to you how happy I am that I literally took a concept from my brain and I made a garment out of it. I'm literally over the moon. So because of the top stitching thread that I use, it's probably a little hard to see on the camera some of the details from this coat, but I actually kind of like that because I think it really, really elevates an item when there are subtle details that are almost like hard to recognize at first glance. And then once you really take a look at the garment, you're like, wow, that's really beautifully constructed. It has these beautiful details that you wouldn't normally see on garments. So anyways, that's kind of my thought about that. But let me show you some of the details. So over here, for example, there's top stitching that happens at the shoulder, and it goes almost all the way down this seam here. The seam comes all the way to the middle of the cuff. I don't know if you can see where it stops. So it stops here. The plan was actually for the seam to run all the way down the sleeve, but oh my gosh, it was so difficult because the sleeve like is this big and getting it through the machine, it just really didn't want to get through the machine. This is some pretty thick denim. I think with like a softer denim, which is what I want to use for this chore coat, it's going to be a lot easier. But anyways, I actually like where the seam ended because again, I think it adds a little bit of visual interest. Let's see. It's kind of hard for me to show you some of these details while this is actually on my body. But yeah, there's like double top stitching pretty much all around. There's a seam down the center back, but it gets stopped midway through. The cuff here is pretty large, and then the pocket is just pinned on right now. I'm kind of debating whether or not I want the pocket actually. Like I had this big vision in my mind about how the pocket was going to be constructed. It was going to have different compartments and all that. And while I still think the concept is cool, I really love the way that the coat looks without a pocket on it. I don't know, I feel like adding the pocket might take away from some of the details that I like about this coat, but also like pockets are practical and wearing practical clothing is a duh in my mind. Like we should be wearing practical clothes. I don't need jeans that don't have pockets. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So maybe I should just look past my feeling about the way the pocket is gonna look visually because pockets are practical and I love practical garments. But also with that being said, like I normally am wearing something else with a pocket. So if my jacket doesn't have a pocket, but my pants have a pocket, then that's where my phone goes and it's fine. Or I can carry a purse because I like adding a purse to my outfit. Anyways, I'm rambling. I would love to know your thoughts about adding a pocket or not adding a pocket to this garment. I'm gonna take it off right now and I'm gonna show you some of the other details that I really, really love about it, but they're just too hard for me to show you right now with it on. All right, here she is in all her glory. Here's that shoulder seam detail. It goes all the way down to like the middle over here for the top stitching. And then down here is the hem. I think the hem looks really, really nice. And I love that this is like a wide placket here. I'm super happy with how this top stitching came together here. I think it looks really nice. The buttons will come all the way up to here. So in theory, if you wanted to like have it closed up here, you could. I probably just personally won't wear it like that. And then this is the pocket. I'm not sure again whether or not I want to add the pocket just because I think it looks so nice without the pocket. Those are all the details. It's a little bit hard to see, but hopefully the camera is catching it for you. On the back side here, I really, really love this back detail. It goes 3/4 of the way down, and then down here, that's a single panel. I had thought about splitting it down the middle, but I'm really happy with this design element here. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you that I'm super, super proud of is actually the inside of the garment. I don't know about you, but I love when the inside of the garment is just as beautiful as the outside, so I tried really hard to make it beautiful, and it is. Let me get this unpinned so I can take it off and show you. Oh, okay, look how cute it is. So I have this little hanging piece because it'll be nice to like, you know, put it on a coat hanger. This is made out of the selvage denim edge, and then I used the selvage for all the way down that center seam as well. I also have that cute little me made tag. I love it. Yeah, I'm so proud. I don't know what else to say. I'm just so proud of this. When I put it on, it just really feels like me, and that's exactly what I want out of the garments that I'm making. There are so many unique viewpoints out there when it comes to fashion, so it's really cool that I get to bring my unique viewpoint out into the world. Like, this coat, yeah, I made it for me, but I also get to make it for you guys because I'm creating this pattern that you guys can hopefully buy relatively soon here, and then you can make this in your unique style. Like, sure, I created the style lines, but you get to do the color that you want, the top stitching that you want. It can be loud and bold or have different trims. The sewing community is just so cool to me because we can all have completely unique ideas and the exact same pattern and come up with so many different beautiful garments. I'm personally doing a pattern testing right now for a dress, and oh my goodness, the amount of beautiful different dresses out there that, like, it's the same pattern, but they are so, so different, and every single one of them is beautiful in their own unique way, and I love that. that. That's probably the best part about sewing your own clothes. Like, you get to make exactly what you want and no one else is gonna have it, even if they have the same pattern as you. So yeah, all that to say that I am proud of where I'm at. I'm very excited to be bringing this pattern to you, and I'm excited to hear your input on everything about it. Do you like the seam lines? What do you think about the pockets or no pockets? What kind of hardware do you think would look good on this? There are just so many things to talk about that I'm so excited to dive into. Actually, with that being said, let me grab the snaps that I'm thinking about using because I would like your opinion on it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It is a 5/8 inch heavy duty snap. So I don't know if you can see what it would look like on this button placket. It almost looks like maybe it's a little small for the width of the button placket. I don't know. I really like the way that they look. This gunmetal color isn't really my favorite. I think that I would prefer a brass color, like a gold color, but this is what I have on hand, so I was thinking about using it. Not totally sure, would be interested in your opinion. I'm also gonna take this off right now because whew, it is warm. But also I'm very excited to have a warm coat now. So yeah, interested in your thoughts on what kind of buttons I should use, and then also interested in your thoughts on pockets versus no pockets. If I do the pockets, I'll do a pocket on both sides, but still debating whether or not I want a pocket at all. Overall, I am super happy with the fit. It fits me exactly how I was hoping it would, and I'm excited to get this pattern out to you guys soon. I do still need to learn how to pattern grade, and that's something that's happening at the end of this course that I'm taking. So yeah, I will keep you posted on when this pattern is going to be available to you. You can keep updated on Instagram. I'm generally posting like exactly what I'm doing every day, so you can see what's happening on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to YouTube where I can do this, you know, longer form content and you can see more of the nitty-gritty details, but it comes to you like a week later than it's actually happening. But yeah, would recommend subscribing if you're interested in my future patterns. I'm super, super excited. Would love to know your input on things that you're interested in. I am still planning to make another one of these chore coats as kind of like the final version, but I don't think that there's going to be any major changes to the pattern itself. I'm really happy with the way that it is. So I'm gonna wait to make that final version until I'm ready to create a tutorial for the pattern, because those will launch at the same time. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Up next in the course, I'm learning how to make pants, and I'm so excited. I have a very specific vision in mind for the type of pants that I want to make. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.